nilesa wasalire sori tapale kodunga chikavwe oso
Chambo chanoa baba muwato wanoa nokuwamba na tubomba sofa tatwa kaleke sori Chambo chanoa baba muwato wanoa nokuwamba na tubomba sofa tatwa kaleke sori
Alewele la pu na puti alewele la pu 2021 alewele la pu alewele la pu Sometimes ila fwa ikawa baula weka feno tidionso kudandaula Sometimes ila fwa ikawa tasha natuwomba nolo watila tabalasha Mona fechalo cheso bochawama Tola ukeri dine tola samwa Wasa wiantanshu utaba mona Valolela fedefwe wetukapona Wena waishi wapyo kukondema Tapari wabawino kama omena Batu yuwe na nilesa fe wasala Gani wena ngatwaba fe munsala Sodini
Uyo alebwele la posori
Uyo nilesa wasalire sori tapale kodunga chikavwe oso
Chambo chanoa baba muwato wanoa nokuwamba na tubomba sofa tatwa kaleke sori Chambo chanoa baba muwato wanoa nokuwamba na tubomba sofa tatwa kaleke sori
Alewele la pu na puti alewele la pu 2021 alewele la pu alewele la pu
Vantate mavuta chabe kutasha Kamineti ona tipona kushusha Nchito yamba kale ya sirize Sorry Time has come to lay a muku vota Evotela komanda Sorry Time has come to lay a muku vota Evotela komanda Sorry
Uyo alebwele la posori
Uyo nilesa wasalire sori tapale kodunga chikavwe oso
Chambo chanoa baba muwato wanoa nokuwamba na tubomba sofa tatwa kaleke sori Chambo chanoa baba muwato wanoa nokuwamba na tubomba sofa tatwa kaleke sori
Alewele la pu na puti alewele la pu 2021 alewele la pu alewele la pu
Nichiuta wapangile bunse kadidili wapangile fyonse tetinkane tetinchinje akasanga chemwine amulekeni ateke alasakamana na balwele tawaishi baleka nkwebe mulekeni asunke iyo abola Uyo alebwele la posori
Uyo nilesa wasalire sori tapale kodunga chikavwe oso
Chambo chanoa baba muwato wanoa nokuwamba na tubomba sofa tatwa kaleke sori Chambo chanoa baba muwato wanoa nokuwamba na tubomba sofa tatwa kaleke sori
Alewele la pu na puti alewele la pu 2021 alewele la pu alewele la pu alewele la pu
Good evening, Zambia, and welcome to the Patriotic Front Interactive Forum, the premium dialogue of the Patriotic Front designed to host party functionaries to discussions over national interest. Our guest this evening is former Minister of Foreign Affairs, former Minister of Information and Broadcasting, former Minister of Agriculture as well as former Minister of Justice. His name is Honorable Given Lubinda, also known sometimes as Zayelo. Good evening, sir, and welcome to the PF Interactive Forum.
Good evening, Madam Simpongwe. Good evening, viewers. Thank you very much for having me on your program.
Great.
And thank you for introducing me as Zayelo. And
it's easier for people to know, those who may not know you were former Minister of Foreign Affairs. We all know when we say Zayelo.
And also former Minister of Tourism, by the way.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Right.
Too many portfolios indeed, Honorable.
Yes, yes, we've been around.
Indeed. Now, Zambia coming from a very, very, painful period, still painful because of the loss of Zambia's founding president, His Excellency Dr. Kenneth David Buchizya Kaunda. Also, the loss of Zambia's Chief Justice, Irene Mambilima, and many other people of note and ordinary people as well. But, your government has received accolades from several sections of society, including, some members of the opposition and civil society and so forth, for the way that the mourning period was conducted, 21 days of national mourning, and as well, the many dignitaries that flocked into this country to bury, to just attend the state funeral of the late founding president of Zambia. What are your reflections and thoughts about this?
Yes, indeed, the demise of beloved Dr. Kenneth David Kaunda was met with a lot of sorrow by many people across the globe, later on for Zambians, especially Zambians who lived during the time that President Dr. Kenneth Kaunda was at the helm of government. Probably the young ones may not have really known who Dr. Kaunda was when he was president. But for those who knew Dr. Kaunda when he was president, felt a great sense of sorrow at his passing on. And indeed, the Zambians, the sub-region, the African sub-region, the continent as a whole, showed outpouring of love for that great man, which is obviously befitting of a man who led Zambia to its independence, a man who contributed immensely to the development of the sub-region, starting with the liberation of the sub-region, going through to contributing to the economic development of the sub-region. A man who expounded love, peace, unity, and global tranquility. I will not be blowing trumpets at all if I say that His Excellency President Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu and the Vice President, the only two political figures who were running government during this period, did a splendid job, extremely splendid job. They gave the world an opportunity to mourn Dr. Kenneth Kaunda in dignity. This can be seen from the number of people who participated in the various funeral programs around that period. The people who turned out in the various provinces where the body was taken to bid farewell to his beloved country, and the people who attended the church service that was held at the showgrounds, the many dignitaries who came from outside the country, outside the continent, the many messages that were sent to His Excellency the President, but also the people who attended the final rites, the church service that was held at the Cathedral of the Holy Cross, and the ones who participated at the burial. All those people just showed that the burial arrangements, the funeral arrangements for the late Dr. Kenneth Kaunda were very well organized and inspired many people to participate. You may wish to take note of the fact that even some people who previously had vowed never ever to participate in state functions, they turned up. And this is to show that, yes, number one, the program was very well organized, such that everybody felt there was a role they could play. And secondly, it showed the amount of love that people had for President Dr. Kenneth David Kaunda. What one hopes is that now that we have put the giant of African politics, the giant of African liberation to rest, that all of us who succeed him in life must emulate him, must emulate his life. I just pray to God that all of us who participated in mourning Dr. Kenneth Kaunda shall wipe our tears by showing love to one another, and that even those who made it a vow never to participate in state functions shall now take a new leaf. They will turn the page, a new page in the book of history, so that going forward they will also now actively participate in state functions, because Dr. Kaunda's number one mantra for Zambia was one Zambia, one nation. His main work was to unite people, and he worked hard during his life. I think that if there is anything that we should give to him is to ensure that we unite as a country. That would be the best gift to give to Dr. Kenneth Kaunda.
Indeed, may the soul of late Zambia's founding president, His Excellency Dr. Kenneth Buchizya Kaunda, rest in eternal peace. Now, let me draw you to the attention of the issues being raised in this nation at this point in time, the issues of the high cost of living. What you know is your government, what is the comment on the high cost of living?
Thank you. That's a very topical issue, and I think you do well to raise it. And I hope that people can understand what we talk about when we talk about the cost of living and the high cost of living in this context in Zambia. Let's first take a few steps back and ask ourselves, at what point did we start talking about the high cost of living? Was it in 2011 or 2015? I'm sure that those who have been following these events will realize that the increased cost of living in Zambia was first seen round about the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. Then we have to ask ourselves, what were the precursors to this? Number one, it was the frequent droughts that we had. You may recall that from 2011 to 2020, we had a number of droughts. Droughts in some parts of the country and floods in other parts of the country. And in any agricultural economy such as ours, when you have a combination of droughts and floods, the outcome is reduced agricultural production. With that, obviously, there is increased price of commodities. But beyond that, all of us are aware of the COVID pandemic, which has ravaged the global economy. There is no country in the world that has not been affected by COVID-19. And Zambia in this context is not an island. And also people must appreciate the fact that much as President Edgar Chagwa Lungu decided, even when opposition political players were suggesting to him that he must lock the country, he decided he's not going to lock down the country. He decided to leave it open. However, you may also recall that all the neighboring countries of Zambia had a lockdown. What this meant was that the inflow of commodities was affected. Now, let's put this in context. And I want to use an example of antibiotics, because that's very important for human health. We import most of our antibiotics, and most of them come from India. Now, you may recall that the country, India itself, was terribly ravaged by COVID. Thousands of people, unfortunately, lost lives. The whole of the Indian economy was affected. Industries closed down, meaning that even the manufacturers of antibiotics couldn't manufacture anymore. On the other hand, there were no planes flying into Zambia because all sources of planes had lockdowns. So there was just a cripple of the airline industry, airline transportation, meaning that even if there were to be antibiotics elsewhere in the world, they couldn't come into Zambia. What did that mean? It meant that we ran short of antibiotics. And when demand outstrips supply, the normal economic phenomena is that the prices of that commodity will increase. This is also what affected a lot of commodity prices for a lot of the imported commodities in Zambia. Look at South Africa. South Africa also had a lockdown, meaning that whatever they were producing which was being sold in Zambia could not come into Zambia. You recall a time when even truck drivers, upon arriving in Zambia, had to be quarantined and so on and so forth. That disturbed the free flow of goods into Zambia. And because of that, you did not expect the prices to remain constant. The prices had to increase. Now, also I'd like us to focus on the fact that while all this was happening, even here in Zambia, you remember that we had to start having exchange programs on work. At ZNBC, for instance, not all reporters were working at the same time. Some had to start working from home. And this also was the case in industry. And I want to take an example of oil manufacturing industries. If a company was employing 1,000 people a day, and now they are to start employing 500 because of the observance of the COVID protocol, the social distancing and so on, you would not expect the 500 to produce the same quantity that the 1,000 were producing. So production reduced, even locally in Zambia, production reduced. The quantity of cooking oil that was being produced reduced per day because of the reduced number of people who were working. And because of that reduction, naturally, the supply on the market of the commodity was reduced, but the demand remained constant. Because of that, prices had to increase. But let's also bear in mind that this did not only affect Zambia. Not too long ago, and I'm glad that it was a private television that carried an article, a very important article about the price of fuel. Zambians know that we don't produce fuel in Zambia. We import our fuel, and most of our fuel comes through the port of Dar es Salaam and is pumped through to Indeni in Ndola. But that article was very informative because it stated that even Tanzanians, the country through which we import our oil, were coming to buy oil in Nakonde. Why was that? It was because the commodity in Zambia was priced lower than it was priced in Tanzania. Now just think of it. If the country through which we import the commodity has the commodity selling at their pumps at a higher price than Zambia, then you have to ask what was the reason for this. That article also indicated that there was a 15%, about 15 to 20% increase in demand for fuel as a result of COVID, because all the neighboring countries, Malawi was mentioned in that report, Zimbabwe was mentioned in the report, Tanzania, like I said, all these countries were coming to buy oil, fuel from Zambia because our prices were lower. This indicates to you that the other countries had even higher increases in prices than we had. Now, the one thing is to have the problem. The second thing is to understand it. Because once you understand the problem, then you can come up with solutions. And I'm very glad to say that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu and his Patriotic Front not only understand the problem, but they also know the solution. And here is what the government is working on. Number one, with regard to cooking oil, because this became very topical. With regard to cooking oil, when President Edgar Lungu realized that commodity prices, when he realized the price of cooking oil is increasing, he decided he will not keep this without any action. He took immediate action. And the action he took was to sign an SI. He signed 2 statutory instruments. One, to do away with duty on imported cooking oil. And the various sources of cooking oil, some of the cooking oil comes from the SADC region, and it attracts between 5 and 15% duty. Some of the cooking oil comes from outside the SADC region and attracts 25% duty. He removed duty. So now duty is 0, whether the oil is imported from the SADC region or is imported from outside the SADC region. The duty now is 0. The second statutory instrument that President Edgar Lungu signed was to do away with the VAT on cooking oil, 16%. Now you can imagine 16% VAT, 25% duty, 41% he removed from imported cooking oil for the purpose of attracting more oil on the market so that you could reduce the prices, the commodity prices, the consumer prices of cooking oil. Secondly, and again, still on the issue of oil, I'm very happy to remind the Zambian people that because of the very progressive agricultural policies that President Edgar Lungu has been implementing, and because of the speedy delivery of agricultural inputs in the year 2020, the farming season 2020-2021, this year we have recorded an increase in the production of oil seed. We have increased sunflower production by 58%. 58% in 1 year, from a total of 50,000 last year to 78,000 this year. We've also increased the production of groundnuts by 38%, from 127,000 metric tons last year to 175,000 metric tons this year. We've also increased the production of soybeans by again 38%, from 296,000 to 420,000 metric tons. Now, this increase in the production of oilseed means that the producers of oil will now find a lot more inputs. And because of the increase in the input, you expect that production will be higher and the prices are bound to reduce. So this is what this government is doing. We are not lying idle about it. The government is taking drastic measures to make sure that we address the cost of living.
Now, alongside the issue of high, cost of living is the very real issue of unemployment, especially among the young people in the nation. What is your government doing to address this problem for the young people?
We have already started. I'm sure that your viewers must have been following the different empowerment programs, youth empowerment programs that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu has been running with. Not too long ago, he was launching the youth empowerment provision to oil tankers for cooperatives, youth cooperatives. And you remember that ever since independence of Zambia, we've been running without a youth policy. And in the year 2000, the president launched a very important youth policy in which we are speaking to not only formal employment, but entrepreneurship development. If you look at the program that we have for youths, we have decided that the empowerment programs that we've been running with, the youths themselves have considered them more like this is money that they get for free. And now we have decided, let's change this approach. Let's make sure that the youths who receive this money, first of all, must be well trained in a particular skill. Secondly, they must undergo entrepreneurship training so that when they get this empowerment fund, they use it for business. Now, instead of them running around to different ministries, we have decided that going forward, we should come up with a youth finance institution, which will specifically deal with funding for youth enterprises. That's one aspect. The second pillar, and this is targeting youths who, as you are well aware, there are some youths who can just not go into business because they don't have the business acumen, they don't have the attributes to become business people. These are the ones that would like to continue in formal employment. They want to be teachers, they want to be doctors, they want to be nurses, they want to be accountants. We have also noticed that a lot of the ones who are on the street now, when you ask them, why haven't you gotten a job up to now? The first thing they complain about is that whenever I apply for a job, I'm asked to have experience. Now, how can I possibly acquire experience if I'm not employed in the first place? So, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu and his party have decided, can we resolve this problem for the sake of the youths? And we are coming up now with the apprenticeship and internship program. This is a program that we already started implementing. In the year 2000 and 2001, we provided apprenticeship and internship to more than 1,000 young people across the country. More than 1,000. And this idea is that the government shall put money aside which shall be used to pay the youths when they are on attachment, whether it be in a government institution or a private institution. So this will not be only limited to public service. This will be open also to private service so that our youths are exposed. And after a year or two, then these youths can now apply for formal employment and they can go and show that they have experience. This is the second pillar that we have. The third pillar is to address especially those of our youths who may not proceed in education to tertiary education. We are coming up with skills training centers, and fortunately for us in the Patriotic Front, we're not only talking about lofty ideas which we have not even implemented, we're talking about ideas that we've already started implementing. Your viewers will realize that over the last 10 years that the PF has been in government, we have already established a number of skills training centers. And I'll give an example of Sesheke. There is a huge skills training center. Actually, that skills training center in Sesheke is so elaborate that it qualifies to be a university. And this is also the case in other parts of the country. We have set up all these skills training centers, and there will be more to come, so that all those who don't qualify to go into tertiary education can be absorbed in these skills training centers so that they can be trained. When I've been traveling around campaigning for His Excellency the President and campaigning for his running mate, Professor Nkanduluo, we went to one district where the chiefs in that district were saying to us, you know, this area here is an agricultural area. We want you to build a university for agriculture. And we reminded them that actually, just in the corner of where we were sitting, there was a skills training center that was being built. And that skills training center shall not only offer mechanical skills, it shall also offer agricultural skills. Now, this is something that is very important. And I will start by discussing this issue by talking about the provision of security in the country. When we started putting up all these security cameras across the city of Lusaka, some mischievous opposition political parties were saying we're putting up these security cameras because we want to spy on them. Surely, how would we spend money to put security cameras in public to spy on the opposition political players? What for? Of what interest would it be? It would be of no interest whatsoever. Truth be told, those security cameras are being put across the city, and we're going to roll them throughout the country, starting with obviously urban centers, the cities of Zambia. That's where we'll put them first. Why do we want those security cameras? We want to put them so that people feel secure 24 hours a day. That is what is going to stimulate what we are talking about in our manifesto as encouraging or introducing a 24-hour economy. Now, let me give a practical example. If you see any road construction equipment, you will see that that equipment is complete with heavy floodlights. If you go and look at any tractor, you will see that it is complete with heavy floodlights. And yet, what have we been doing? We've been using these tractors from 8 o'clock in the morning and making them go to sleep at 17 hours. Right? Now, you start to ask yourselves, we have so much arable land in Zambia, and we have such a big market for agricultural produce, but we're only producing on such a small piece of land because we're working 8 hours a day, and yet we have equipment which can work 24 hours a day. Now, we are introducing this 24-hour economy so that there are 3 shifts in the economy. Giving the example of the tractor I was talking about, it will mean that now we don't only have 1 driver of the tractor. We now have 3 drivers. Meaning for every 1 job that we have now, we'll create 2 more jobs. Now, for who are we creating those jobs? Obviously, the youths. The road construction industry I spoke about. You get a company constructing roads, and they start at 8 in the morning and they close at 17 hours. They go to sleep and the equipment is locked up. When that equipment can work 24 hours. So when we introduce the 24-hour economy, it means that we now have 2 additional jobs for everyone that we have. And that is how we're going to absorb more and more of our youths into employment.
Now, infrastructure development is the hallmark of the PF government. What has been done in the last 10 years in this regard?
Wow. What has been done? Let me start by saying in 2011, the PF government inherited a huge infrastructure deficiency. Huge. What do I mean? Let's look at one area, the energy sector. And I'm taking the energy sector because that is what propels industrialization. That's what propels the economy. Just energy. The last time that we as a country invested in the energy sector was in 1977. 1977. From 1977, this country had to wait for the Patriotic Front to form government in 2011. In 1977, what was the population of Zambia? Those who remember, the population of Zambia was 4 million. In 2011, what was the population of Zambia? 14 million. Meaning, the energy that we're producing meant for 4 million was now energy being struggled for by 14 million. How would you expect to develop? And I would like viewers to understand that development takes place on the backbone of infrastructure. Without infrastructure, you cannot develop at all. There is no way you can develop, not even at household level. You cannot develop if you don't have land. You cannot develop if you don't have the means with which to develop. And for a national economy, you cannot develop unless you have infrastructure that is supportive of development. And I've given you an example of energy. Move on to another area, education. How many universities did we inherit in 2011? 3 universities. CBU, UNZA, and Mulungushi. 3. These universities were built at a time when the population of Zambia, as for UNZA, when the population of Zambia was less than 3 million. CBU, when the population of Zambia was 4 million. We added Mulungushi when the population of Zambia was 8 million. When we inherited government in 2011, how many Zambians were there? 14 million. And then you are talking about development. How do you develop unless you have skilled manpower? How do you develop? You can't develop unless you have skilled manpower. We were now already talking about unemployment. How do you employ youths unless they have some kind of skill? This PF government, President Edgar Chagwa, decided we cannot continue like this. What did he do? Between 2011 and now, we have increased the number of universities from 3 to 8. Back to energy, I didn't complete that part. From 1977, we came and started investing in energy generation in Zambia. From 1,600 megawatts, we now have 2,800 megawatts. Look at the health sector. We had 1 university teaching hospital. When was it built? In the 60s. What was the population of Zambia in the 60s? 3 million. And we were hoping that we can continue to receive medical attention at this 1 hospital, which was meant for 3 million, and now we're 18 million. It doesn't make sense. Look at what we invested now in the health sector. We now have a brand new Levi Mwanawasa teaching hospital. Look at the bed capacity of that hospital. Look at all the hospitals that we have rolled out of the country. Look at Petaoke Hospital. Look at Request Muntanga Hospital in Kalomo. Go to the Copper Belt and see the beautiful hospitals we've built. And we've also put up health centers across the country. Of the 650 target that we had, and again, because of some lapses in our collaboration with the Indian companies that were constructing, at least to have gone up to 450. Can you imagine 450 health centers built in a period of 10 years? It's unprecedented. Unprecedented. Move to the road infrastructure. It used to take my relatives and I 3-4 days to go and visit our relatives in Kalabo. We used to park our canoes along the Zambezi on islands to cook. It used to take us such a long time. We invested in the Mongu Kalabo Bridge. How long does it take us to move now? 30 minutes. What was the cost of that? Huge amounts of money went into that. Look at the road infrastructure, and let's start first with Lusaka. If anybody could just sit back and imagine, hadn't we opened up the roads in Lusaka, would it have been possible for people to go for work and arrive at work on time? How many man-hours would we have been losing on a daily basis because of congestions on the road? And how many people would have been dying of heart attack? Because you know what it means when you're in this traffic jam and you are in a hurry, you want to go and execute a function. Your blood pressure just increases. Can you imagine? We had to invest in all this road infrastructure in Lusaka, the road infrastructure across the country, to make sure that the economy runs. Without that, one can just shudder to imagine the state of the economy today. Housing. Let's look at housing. And to talk about housing, I think the best example to give are our men and women in uniform. And I happen to have been privileged to have been honored by the people of Kabwata constituency to have represented them for 20 years. And I'm referring to Kabwata because that's where most of the police officers are trained. If I recall how those police officers were living at Lilai Police Camp, I remember once in Parliament saying to the government then, how do you expect those people to churn out well-qualified police officers when they themselves are living in squalor? They are living in these elephant houses where the demarcation between rooms is by a chitenge. Huh? And for the tall police officers, their legs are outside. Huh? I used to quarrel about this. And over this period, very short period, 10-year period, from 2011 to 2021, how many houses have we built for our officers in uniform? 4,572. That is at a rate of 457 per year. Huh? All this is investment in infrastructure. Some people have been telling us that we can't eat roads. Yes, nobody says you can literally eat roads. But the fact that you have these roads and the roads are improving the rate at which you are delivering goods and services, it means that you are eating a product of the roads. And we are happy that we have gone to this point. If you look at the feeder roads in the hinterland, they were totally non-existent. Now you will see that we've invested colossal amounts of money to open up farming areas so that inputs can go to these areas early. Why do you think that now, from 2016 to 2020, all the farmers have been praising President Edgar Lungu and saying, thank you for the early delivery of inputs? It is not just the plan to procure the inputs early, it is also because of the infrastructure that has been opened up. Previously, trucks would get stuck as they are delivering inputs. Now the roads are done so the inputs can be delivered with ease. At the same time, all produce can be bought and brought to the centers of consumption with ease because of the roads that we have opened up. So I think that in all fairness, people must just turn around and say, well done, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, well done, PF. Can you imagine with that infrastructure deficiency that we inherited, with the last investment being made in 1977 for a population of 4 million, now we're becoming a marvel. Huh? We're becoming a marvel. Some people have also been quarreling, why are you doing these very expensive flyover bridges? These are very expensive. What alternative do we have? Should we go and start buying off properties to expand the roads so they are 6-lane? that may end up being even more expensive than us doing flyover bridges. But also, this is the trend globally. There is no modern city you go to which doesn't have flyover bridges. As a matter of fact, we should be encouraging PF government, we should be encouraging President Edgar Lungu to do more and better flyover roads. Not only bridges, but roads, so that a person can drive all the way from airport turn-off. They can drive from there into the city without having any congestion along the road, because those would be departing, going to Charleston, going to Munali, will use another route. But those who are driving into the city must go on a flyover all the way. That is what modernization is all about. And the PF government is the only one that can manage to achieve such development. The others will be talking about things that they may just have read about or things that they wish could happen. But for us, we have a president who is saying, I am going to do this because I have earned sufficient experience over the period that I've been in government. And I've delivered to show you that if you give me another opportunity, I can build on what I've delivered.
Now, President Lungu's reign seems to be, have been marred by several calamities. There's been, droughts. There's been, floods. There's currently the advent of COVID-19. Some sections of society, of the opposition, feel that they could have done better had they been in power. What is your comment?
We should start with first saying, how did President Edgar Lungu ascend to the presidency? Whereas others had all the time to prepare, they had probably 15 years to prepare. For President Edgar Lungu, this came to him not out of pleasure. It came to him by an act of God. President Edgar Lungu never ever postured as a successor to President Michael Chilufya Sata. Never. He was contented with being Minister of Defense. And then by an act of God, he found himself in a position where all his colleagues said, it is you. Now, can you imagine a person who's picked to be president under such circumstances? Obviously, you expect that they would be held by grief. And a lot of people, I'm sure, thought, no, he will not make it. But look at what he has done. I'm starting with this to show that, yes, the calamities you're talking about are also an addition to how he rose to the position. And for a person who was picked in such a manner, a person who hadn't even planned for such a long time, for him to come and record this success, even given the calamities you're talking about, the droughts and the floods and the COVID, and the general ridicule that he has gone through. Can you imagine a president whose presidency is always being ridiculed by people? A given section of the political players are always ridiculing him and so on. And while they are doing that, he is being so focused on one thing and one thing only: providing true patriotic leadership, which inspires development for the Zambian people. That has been his focus. And this is the reason why he has recorded all the achievements that he has done. This has to be borne in mind. And which president in Zambia has had so many court challenges, challenge after challenge? It's only him. No other president has had to go through all these court petition after petition. A lot of people would break. You'd break their back with this. But for him, because he is resolute and he knows what he is meant to do, he's so focused. And this is the reason why he never turns from his focal point. He's always focused on delivering. So indeed, under these difficult circumstances, President Edgar Lungu has performed better than many would have performed.
Now, let us, as we are about to conclude, let us weigh in on the, PF candidate, His Excellency Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, and his running mate. Could you just give us their individual strengths? What exactly are they bringing to the table, and why should Zambia re-elect President Lungu and bring in his running mate?
I don't think you could have any better combination than the two. And I'm saying this as a person who has not only worked with them, but has known them as individuals for a long time. And I've known both of them even before having political office. I've known President Edgar Lungu as a lawyer. I've known him for ages. I've also known Professor Nkanduluo for ages. And I can tell you that the combination is what I refer to as dynamic combination. This is just dynamite. Dynamite because they complement each other so very well. With due respect to my mother, and she really is my mother, Princess, she is Princess, and many people don't know that. She is Princess Mukwai Inongewina. With due respect to her, she has held the party together. She has held all of us together. She has also been motherly to the whole country. Now, that in relation to President Edgar Lungu gave the two of them some kind of, what's the word for it, soft leadership, if you like. Both. President Edgar Lungu is such a patient man, extremely patient. And Madame Inongewina, Vice President, also very patient and very tolerant. That combination, I have to say to you, may to some extent have led to some people in the system being laxed. Because both President and Vice President were very patient, very relaxed people and very accommodating, and they always made sure if there's something they want to find out from you, they give you the rope. And excellent leadership, very accommodating leadership. Now, with Madame Inongewina paving way, as she has done, and now enter Nkanduluo, things are bound to be different. And this is one of the greatest traits of Nkanduluo. Once she says this must be done, she will not wait for results. She wants the results. She wants results, and she's not as patient as her predecessor. She is more aggressive than her predecessor. And this is why I'm saying the combination is going to be dynamite, because whereas the head of state is a patient man and waits for her, she will run. And I'm sure that the president will now see that there is somebody who is really making sure that even ministers, I'm very happy that I'm not going to be amongst them. Because truth be told, President Edgar Lungu, I think, will now be given some room to also concentrate more on policy and philosophical issues, because Professor Nkanduluo will make sure that everybody is running. I don't think that people take Professor the way they took Her Honor the Vice President, whom they could go and say, Ma'am, I'll come and deliver this tomorrow. And she says, all right, but tomorrow please bring it. I think for Nkanduluo, she will say, I want it yesterday. That's the trait that is very important. But secondly, and I'm not saying anything to take away from Her Honor the Vice President, but the issue is that Professor is a workaholic. She really works. Even now that I'm her campaign manager, I can see that sometimes some people start to drag their feet, and she says, all right, if you're tired, stay here, I'm going there, I'm going to have that meeting there. She's just given to work. President Edgar Lungu, as everybody knows, spends very little time on leisure, very little time on rest. But this dynamite is extremely important for Zambia, extremely crucial. And I would like to advocate for their election, because I think that the two of them will lead this country to even greater heights than President Edgar Lungu and Madame Inongewina have gone. The two will now build onto where these other two have left.
Thank you very much indeed, Honorable Lubinda, for having featured on the Patriotic Front Interactive Forum to just articulate issues of the party. And to our viewers, thank you so much for having been with us the entire duration of the Patriotic Front episode. And until next week, when we bring to you yet another exciting guest, my name is Nakiwe Simpungwe. Good evening.
Amina Abla Tabla Etika Chakwalo Bawato Inshallah Simbo 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 Ngole Talika Somone Eule Wele la Po Etika Chakwalungu Chakwa Eule Wele la Po Na puti galeza ne piebu Eule Wele la Po Wema yuti pasa Metwa Somina la peau. La peau.
Today muwesha nungu akonga nyepo chagwa obuyantanshi
ni botiliandi de biga papiku mama ni botiliandi de biga papiku sulanga dama Chalo cha Zambia, we chalo cha Zambia, chalo cha mtende. Umuno bengale bomba, umuno bengale bomba.
Ipatala imisebo na maskulu. Women empowerment, youth empowerment, development ya chalo. No buyantanshi wa Zambia. Tena yo chagwa.
Ngole talika somone. Eule wele la po. Etika chagwa lungu chagwa. Eule wele la po. Na puti galeza ne piebu. Eule wele la po. Wema yute pasa Metwa Somina. Eule wele la po. Eule wele la po. Afrika ucha batasha. Eule wele la po. Istani yose balumba. Eule wele la po. Northern yose batonga. Eule wele la po. Southern yose ichongedwe.
It's time to show Zambia what we have done.
Love and peace number one.
Pasapolo mumutendele na fuji ya